Nobody called them that. They were uni-parks, or the parks, or sometimes they were the university parks. She wondered how many people in this bustling city really knew much about its history, or how long this place had been a sanctuary of quiet in a city whose population grew to 1 million by the mid-21st century. But while the city had become a major metropolitan area, the parks remained the same. A flash in the southern sky startled her. "Here we go," she thought. Another flash, then another. She knew what happened at once. It was breaking up. Way up there in the upper atmosphere, chunks of rock would be spreading out from their original trajectories, and some of the smaller pieces would explode and burn up. Those were the flashes. The larger pieces would continue their deadly plunge. The astronomer in her was calculating possibilities and probabilities, even though she wanted nothing more than to have some peace and quiet in her final moments. The flashes were all to the south and east of here. She didn't see anything else, though, just the light from the explosions. The point of impact would be further to the south, then, at least on this longitude, somewhere in southern Europe, perhaps, or even Africa. As for the rest of the world, there was no way to know for certain. The trajectory could move in a straight line following the same latitude all across the world, or it could move north or south. There was just no way of knowing after the thing broke up. The folks in Bern would have updated info, of course, but with most networks down and not really feeling like it, she abandoned the reasoning. It didn't matter anymore. She kept walking. It had been years since she had been in the parks. While working in Bern, she had taken vacations, usually short, to see Diane and Brian, and Chris, while he was still alive. She still felt the sting of guilt for not having seen eye to eye with him. He had been a good husband to Diane, and a great father to Brian. There was just this wall between them, and she suspected she was at least partly to blame. She had always prioritized her work, especially these last few years, knowing what was coming. He had said once, "Kirsty, when time is so short, it's even more important to put family first." And she knew he was right. It was just that in Bern, she was actually making a difference. Her work might save people's lives. Not hers and not her family's, for which she had nothing but regrets. But some people might actually live through this, and whatever would come after because of her work. The great flu had taken Chris. It was such a blow to Diane, and even harder for Brian. Over just 3 months in late '79, while the world fought amongst itself over the tickets off the planet, hundreds of thousands died from a pandemic that barely made headlines. And in 2 short weeks in bleak November, a boy lost his father, and a wife lost her husband. Kirsty had taken a week off to be with them, but by the time they buried him, she was back in Bern, working. She suspected Diane had never truly forgiven her for leaving, although her daughter had always supported her decisions, even her decision to make her work first priority. The ground trembled, and bits of gravel jumped around her shoes. She stopped in place. That had to be an impact. No way to know where, though. No way to estimate how big. Being on an island, she suspected tsunamis to be the biggest threat. Direct hits in the UK being unlikely because of its small size. She patted Shaggy reassuringly before they began walking again. Nothing to do about any of it, she thought. But there was a chill in her bones that didn't stem entirely from the cold weather. She kept walking until she reached the flower bridge. It stood pristine, preserved in its original condition, having been closed to the public for decades, except once a year when people from all over Oxfordshire would gather to commemorate the fallen from the Magdalen College attacks. Thankfully, Britain had been spared the worst attacks in the Great War on Terror. There had been nothing like Seattle on this side of the Atlantic. Magdalen was the exception, though.